If you've ever stared at your P&L and thought we're growing, so why our profit is going down? Revenue is actually the easy part. Profit is what destroys brands. You can hit 7 figures and still go bankrupt. I've been in ecom for over 12 years and I've watched this happen to a lot of brands over and over again. And in the next few minutes, I'm giving you the exact framework I use with my clients to take their margins from break even to very profitable. So first, let's go through some reasons why profitability is declining. So you have ROAS down 9%. You have fixed marketing costs up by 32%. These are agencies, creative, salaries. This is according to Ecom CFO 2026 report. You have cost per acquisition up 222% in 8 years. That's more than 3x, which is quite crazy. If your ROAS, for example, goes from 3x down to 2x, then you have lost 17 points of margin. So this is to say that it's not necessarily a you problem. This is because of some forces, both external and internal. So let's go through the 5 forces crushing your margins. So you have external, these are out of your control, more or less. So you have CPM and CAC inflation. These are up 90% in 2025. The average cost per acquisition was $21.95 last year, and it peaked at $28 in November, obviously during Black Friday and Cyber Monday. CPMs and CACs go up. You have the cost per click here up 11% year over year in 2026, which is quite significant. You have carrier rate hikes, 5 to 7%. You have free shipping expectations. 75% of consumers expect it, and 91% of frequent shoppers expect free shipping. And this is actually the number one cause of cart or checkout abandonment. Amazon trained everyone to expect free shipping. And then you have the returns culture. So this obviously depends on the industry that you're in. Apparel is the highest here, 20 to 30%. And you have supplements here at the lowest, 3 to 8%. And there are different drivers here. So the first one is going to be choice abundance and free returns. So consumers have a lot of choice these days. And a lot of brands, they try to offer more risk reversal to try to get that order by offering free returns. You have also customers buying from multiple stores here and then choosing the one that they like and return the rest. 50% of 18 to 30 years old admit to planned returns, and each return is going to cost your brand 20 to 65% of the original item price. This is because of return shipping costs, inspection, restocking, reverse logistics. And the other thing is that only 48% of returned items resell at full price. So all of these things combined are eating into your profit margins. Let's go through some of the internal forces. These are forces that you have control over, self-inflicted here. So the first one is going to be discount addiction. So the average discount rate was 28% in 2024, which is quite significant. So customers acquired on discount have actually 30 to 40% lower LTV. And we notice this across all of our clients. A lot of the customers that are only interested in getting a discount from your brand end up spending less over their lifetime. The more the customer is interested in discounts to buy from you, the lower their LTV. So you're basically taking the profits from your top customers who are interested in ordering from your brand, whether you're offering discounts or not, and basically paying for the bottom 20% of your customers who only buy from you because you're offering discounts. The second one is going to be bloated paid funnels. So most ecom brands get 60 to 70% of revenue from Meta or Google ads. So when CPMs spike, your P&L spikes with it as well. You don't necessarily have an ecom brand, you have a Meta tax. And this is a big problem in the ecom space because many ecom brands are heavily reliant on Meta ads. And this is not necessarily a bad thing because you could scale incredibly fast with ads. However, I talked to so many brands over the past few years that got their Meta account banned for some reason, and they completely lost their business overnight. So this is something to think about. The next one is going to be no retention leverage. The average ecom brand's email and SMS is responsible for about 15 to 20% of total revenue. This is from all the accounts they audited, and that number should be around 30 to 50%. So every dollar that comes through email and SMS has near zero cost per acquisition because you're just paying for the provider or the contractor or the team member that is working on your email and SMS program, and also paying for the app, whether it's Klaviyo or Attentive, and the price depends on how big your email list is. So that's not a lot of cost compared to other channels. In fact, according to VentureBeat, each dollar spent on email marketing typically generates $38 back. So it's one of the lowest cost, most profitable channels that you can use. You have brands leaving 15 to 25% of margin points on the table because they don't have an optimized bottom of the funnel. Let's go through the next section here, which is the reframe. So most operators react wrong here. So what they do when the revenue drops, they basically try to offer more discounts, which is going to end up digging a deeper hole for them. The next thing is they decide to spend more on Meta, which is going to reduce their profitability even further. So the more you scale on Meta, the higher your cost per acquisition. The other thing they can do is to cut team, and this could be a valid reason. However, if you cut any key positions, then it will affect your profitability, and the result is margins shrink even more with these. So with that in mind, you have 2 real paths here instead. So let's talk about the profit equation here. Profit equals revenue you times margin. So path number one is going to be to cut costs, and path number two is going to be to compound revenue. You have two levers to increase your profitability. The first one has a floor. This is cutting costs. You can only cut costs so much before you hit the floor. And the other one has a ceiling. This is the compound revenue. And I'm going to show you how to do both and which one I personally prefer. And when you combine these two together, you have your brand operating at efficiency, because I believe the brands that are able to scale the fastest are the most efficient brands. Because some e-commerce brands I talk to, they get really high on meta ads, for example. They start scaling, they do 2x, 3x, and they completely ignore efficiency. So they have a lot of value that's leaking at each stage of the funnel. I'm going to show you how to plug those holes later. So let's talk about cost discipline here. As we mentioned before, it has a floor, so it's limited. So the first thing that you can do is to perform a pricing audit. Check when was the last time you raised your prices for your products. So you have inflation increasing every year. Your costs are also increasing every year, but your prices are staying the same. So that will eat into your profitability and make you less competitive every year. If you're really worried about increasing your prices, then just test a 5 to 10% on bestsellers or heroes. And most e-commerce brands see no conversion rate drop whatsoever. So take your 3 bestsellers, increase the prices by 10% and see how things go there. The second one is going to be tier pricing. So this is more of a product strategy. You have premium products that appeal to the premium pocket of your ICP. You have mid and then you have entry. So don't be afraid to sell more expensive products. The next one is going to be to raise free shipping threshold. Let's say you're offering free shipping on $70 plus. If you just raise that to $75 or $80, then it's going to make a significant improvement in your profitability. The way we do it for our clients is to look at the average order value and then raise it maybe by 10% or 15% and see how things go. The next one is to completely stop discounting your heroes. You know these sell already even without discounts, so there is no point to discount them. This works twofold because most of your revenue is going to be coming from those heroes. So by discounting them, you're really eating into your profitability. What you can do instead is to offer discounts only on slower selling product. The advantage here is that you're going to be able to finish slow moving stock instead of it just sitting there in the warehouse costing you money. So the next one is going to be costs of goods, supplier or batch. Typically, it's a good idea to renegotiate annually. Even 5% savings here could make a massive difference. The next thing is on every reorders, you should get 3 quotes minimum from different suppliers and figure out exactly if you can save some costs here. So the next one is going to be to order bigger batches. However, you need to be careful about your cash conversion cycle here. Let's say, for example, that you ordered 1,000 units here, and let's say that each unit is costing you $10. That means that you have spent $10,000. However, let's say on the other hand, if you order a bigger batch, let's say $5,000, and your cost per unit goes down because you're ordering more quantity, let's say it's $8. Now you have spent $40,000. From the look of it, you saved 20% on the cost here, $8 compared to $10, which is quite a significant improvement because your cost of goods are some of your biggest expenses. However, now you have $40,000 locked that you cannot spend on payroll or maybe funding some new creatives. So the rule of thumb here is to order only 90 to 120 days worth of product. Anything that is above that is going to be an overkill for your brand. You're basically going to be locking money that you can reinvest in growing your brand. So the next one is going to be packaging audit, and packaging typically accounts for 5 to 10% of your cost of goods. And if you figure out a way to make it more efficient, to make the experience better, but also figure out how to save some cost there, that's 20 to 30% the savings. Then another thing to look at, whether it makes more sense for your brand to go nearshore or overseas. Another option is also private label. This is more for retailers that sell other brands. So if you sell other brands, your profit margin is going to be at most 30%. But if you decide to go private label, then you could raise that to 60%, which is quite significant. So the next thing to look at is going to be shipping and returns. The first one is to renegotiate carriers annually. The second one is going to be to use rate shop software. And these alone could save you 8 to 15%, like Shippo, ShipStation, etc. The next one is going to be dimensional weight audit. So carriers typically charge by weight and also volume. So you basically get punished by having heavier weights or higher volume. And some of the worst examples of this is, let's say, selling pillows. So technically they are very light, but they take a lot of volume. And this is unfortunately something that a lot of e-commerce brands don't actively think about. So sometimes it's not possible to make your product lighter, but at least try to figure out a way to make it more compact so you can save a little bit on shipping. The next one is going to be to tighten your return policy. This one is a little bit tricky these days because a lot of these brands, they offer a really good return policy to reduce the friction as much as possible and to have that risk reversal. So even for consumable brands like foods or supplements, I see a ton of brands, they say, hey, try it. If you don't like it, you get your money money back. So it's very difficult to compete if you have a tight return policy, but you could still audit your policy to figure out exactly where you're losing money here. The next one is going to be aggressive PDP fit info. So a lot of returns happen because the customer thinks the product is for them and then they realize it's not. Maybe they had the wrong expectations. They didn't read the description well. Maybe they thought it's going to fit, like if you're selling clothes and it didn't. And I remember we had an issue with a pet brand that was selling collars where the customers basically order something and then it doesn't fit. And it was costing them a lot in terms of returns until we figured out a way to simplify the site. And so any important detail that you can include in your product pages is going to not only increase your conversion rate, but will also significantly reduce your return rate. This could be in terms of videos, model size data, fit AI. So let's go through the next step to audit to decrease your costs and improve your profit margin. And it's going to be stack and contractor ROI. List every line item. This is in terms of apps you are using, maybe agencies you're working with, contractors with their monthly costs. What you do then is to write the ROI multiplier. So for each of these, you try to figure out exactly how much ROI they are bringing for your brand, and not only in terms of dollar value, also in terms of hours saved. So for example, if you're working with someone or even like an app and it's saving you 5 hours per week, then that's quite a significant return there, because you could invest those 5 hours into higher leverage activities that could actually move the needle for your brand. So if you have something or someone that has a less than 3x ROI, then I recommend doing what's called a 30-day cancellation test, just to see if revenue and profit gets affected at all. If not, then that person was not really contributing to your revenue and to your ROI. So the next step is going to be to consolidate tools. And this is an issue I see for our own agency as well. Every month I do an audit. I see that we have an app or a couple of apps that we are paying for that we are not using. So sometimes, for example, I sign up for an app, start paying. I think we need it for something. And then after a week or two, I realize that we don't actually need it and then forget to cancel it. And it's just going to cost you every single month. So it's really good for someone to audit those expenses on a monthly basis and figure out where you can save on costs there. So the next one is going to be don't fire necessarily, especially if you hate firing people, if you have really good team members. So you can just figure out a way on how to redeploy them in higher leverage activities. The next thing you could do to save on costs and increase your profit margin is going to be discounting disciplines. So what you do is basically calculate your blended discount rate. This is the total dollar value of your discounts divided by the total revenue. And then you can see the exact percentage that you lost to discounts. If it's greater than 15%, then you're training your customers to be addicted to your discounts. So what you can do if it's above 15% is to reserve discounts only to members or VIPs. Let's say, for example, you're offering a loyalty or rewards program and you have different tiers where people can ascend. And every time they unlock a new tier, they get some perks or benefits and maybe an increased discount. It could be, for example, people who are part of your SMS program or even your email program. It could also be people who are part of your community. Maybe you have a Discord group or something like that. Make it a little bit more exclusive in order to incentivize more of your audience to join these VIP groups. The second one is going to be bundle as a discount. So this is actually something that a lot of the fastest scaling brands do these days. And I did a few breakdowns of some 8 to 9 figure brands like IM8, AG1, Graza, Magic Spoon, etc. And all of them, they offer these bundles here. So what they do is basically try to get people to order a 2-month or 3-month supply. Maybe they bundle products, for example, get the 3-pack, save this, get the 6-pack, save this. So you only offer a discount on a bundle or kit. And the next one is going to be to stop training the wait here. So this is one of the worst things that you could do for your brand, because if discounts are used excessively, they will not only train your customers to wait for those discounts, they will also devalue your brand long term. So these are some of the strategies that you can implement to cut some costs. However, you should know that there is only so much you could do here to cut costs without affecting your business here. So let's go through the next step here, which is going to be path number 2, compound revenues. So this one, the reason I like it is because if you have small lifts or improvements in each of your metrics, they will compound and make a huge difference in your profitability. So the 3 metrics I care most about in the ecom space is conversion rate, average order value, and customer lifetime value. So how do you increase your conversion rate here? The first one is the capture mechanism. For example, if you have a pop-up or an opt-in form that captures, let's say 10 to 20% of your audience, converts them into subscribers, and then turn into first-time customers, that will significantly increase your conversion rate because you're technically extracting more value out of the same traffic that you are sending. So you are not increasing the amount of volume or amount of traffic that you are sending to the website. You are just converting more of those people into first-time customers. When someone opts in, they go through the welcome flow, which is the highest revenue flow for our clients. They also go through some of the abandonment flows, which are designed to get that first purchase. Another thing that you can do is to improve or optimize your product pages to try to increase that conversion. The average conversion rate for ecom is around 3%. Obviously, it depends on your average order value. The higher your AOV, the lower the conversion rate is going to be, generally speaking. So even if you can improve your product pages in a way that lifts the conversion rate by 10%, it's going to make a massive difference on the back end. Then you have including more social proof and reviews, not just in your emails, but also on your website and on your ads as well. You have mobile checkout user experience. So the next metric that I care about is going to be the average order value. So you can increase that, like we mentioned before, by having bundles, by having kits as well, by having free ship thresholds. For example, try to increase it. Let's say you're offering right now free shipping on $70. You can do it maybe $75 and see how that affects your profitability. The next one is going to be cart upsells or cross sells or even downsells. This could be pre-purchase or post-purchase. The next one could be buy more, save more tiers. I really like these and you will see them used a lot in the food industry. And the next one is going to be the subscription nudge. So the most important number for ecom is going to be increasing your lifetime value. The brands that are the most competitive are the ones that have the highest LTV. So if you take a look at the supplement space, for example, the reason AG1 is a $600 million brand is because they are able to generate as much revenue as possible from every single customer they have. So if their customers, for example, stay with them for 10 months versus the industry average, which is 3 months, there is no way any other brand is going to be able to compete with them. So you can increase your customer lifetime value by having solid post-purchase flows, by having replenishment win-back flows, VIP loyalty flows, referral program as well. You have campaign cadence. For our clients, we like to send 2 to 3 emails per week to stay top of mind and convert those on the fence subscribers. You have birthday and anniversary as well. And all of these flows work together in tandem to maximize your customer lifetime value. Obviously, you can also use ads to target people who are at risk of churn or maybe lapsed customers or unengaged subscribers or something like that to try to bring them back to the main engaged segment or try to get them to place the next order. So if you increase your conversion rate, average order value, and customer lifetime value, even by small percentages, all of these things are going to compound here. So let's go through an example from one of our clients here. We pulled this from their Triple Whale account, which is a tracking and analytics platform. So you will see here that we're comparing the Klaviyo visitors against the non-Klaviyo visitors. So Klaviyo visitors are people who engage with our email program, whether it's they subscribe to our list, maybe opened, clicked an email, etc. Non-Klaviyo visitors are people who have not engaged with our email program whatsoever. So in terms of conversion rate, Klaviyo visitors convert at 3.78% versus non-Klaviyo visitors 1.55%. So we have a lift of 144%. Average order value $76 for Klaviyo, $42 for regular visitors, and the lift is 81%. You have the revenue per visitor is $11 for Klaviyo, $3 for regular visitors. That's a 281% lift, and the customer lifetime value is $112 for Klaviyo visitors and only $55 for non-Klaviyo visitors, which is a 102% increase. So the objective here is try to get as much of your visitors or traffic as possible into your email and SMS program by capturing the maximum amount, try to nurture them via flows and also campaigns, and try to get them to purchase the first time and then eventually become repeat customers. So this is how you significantly increase all of your metrics here. Why I prefer path number 2. With cost cutting, you could only do so much because you're basically subtracting and eventually it's going to backfire. However, the reason I like path number 2 is because revenue is compounding. So you're basically multiplying things across your funnel. And there is also a deeper psychological way to think about this. So in terms of cutting, it's more of a scarcity mindset. In terms of trying to compound and generate more and improve your metrics, it's more of an abundance mindset. So obviously you need to combine both because that's how you make your brand the most efficient. However, I recommend that you focus more attention on path number 2, which is going to be the multiplication. So here you have email, which is a near zero marginal cost. Again, as I mentioned before, you're only paying for the app plus the provider who's managing that, and you're getting quite a significant return from that. And this drops straight to your bottom line. So here's an example why path number 2 is multiplicative and not additive. Revenue equals traffic times conversion rate times average order value times purchase frequency. So let's say, for example, you are sending 100 visitors to your website and you have a conversion rate of 3%. That means that you are converting 3 customers. And let's say that your average order value is $50. That means that on that first sale, you have generated $150. And let's say that your purchase frequency is 2x. So people buy twice from you over their lifetime. That means that your revenue is 150 times 2, which is $300. So if you improve each of these metrics, even by a small margin, things will end up compounding at the end. So let's say, for example, you improve your conversion rate by 10%. That's a multiplier of 1.1%. Same thing with the average order value, 10%, and LTV by 10% as well. That will result in 33.1% more revenue at the same traffic level. So you are not spending more money at the top of the funnel to acquire more traffic. You're just better monetizing the existing traffic that you have right now. And that's why efficiency wins in the marketplace. So the most efficient brands are the ones who are going to be the most competitive. Let's go go through which operators win in the marketplace today. So step number one is going to be to fix the funnel and try to improve your conversion rate, your average order value, and your customer lifetime value by extracting as much value as possible from every single visitor you send to your website. And step number two is to audit your spreadsheet and figure out exactly how you can cut costs without affecting revenue. For example, audit your shipping, audit your cost of goods, audit your discounting strategy, etc. And that's where leverage lives. So if you'd like to increase profitability for your ecom brand, then we're happy to help. We use email and SMS to increase our clients' conversion rate, average order value, and customer lifetime value. If you're interested, I'm happy to offer you a free in-depth audit of your email and SMS program, where I show you exactly what's missing, what could be improved, and how much more revenue you'll be able to generate when all of the improvements are implemented. This is not some generic nonsense AI slop. This is 8 to 10 pages of expert recommendations specifically tailored to your brand. If you're interested, click on the first link in the description to schedule a quick call with me. See you in the next one.